Hey everyone, this is my Phase 3 multimedia presentation. I'll be answering some questions about the Phase 3 project and the group experience from Phase 2. The first question we're looking at is what was the most powerful part of the team experience for Phase 2? Um, for me, I was on a Team Excalibur and along with Ken and Jeanette. For me, I think I'd say the most powerful part of the experience was just learning how the other teachers would go about increasing scores or reteaching the material. It was helpful to me because Jeanette also teaches math, and Ken teaches history, so that was kind of a different perspective. Um, but it was just interesting to see the strategies that they have in their own classrooms for what they would do if the kids aren't getting the material, and how we could just bounce ideas off each other and come together and form a good project. Um, and then at the end, obviously, I think that we created a very seamless plan that when you look at it, you can't. It's kind of hard to tell that there's three separate authors because everything just flowed together really well. Um, the second question is, what was my weakest moment during the project? And to be honest, I really didn't feel like I had a weak moment. Um, Possibly at the beginning of the project, I was a little bit confused on what were the expectations for writing the whole report, mainly just because I wanted to see a sample from a previous semester because most of my other grad school classes, when we have a big project, we're able to see a sample. Um, but since we weren't able to see a sample, I was a little bit lost. Um, but because we had the rubric and everything, I just kind of started writing, and I guess it came out good in the end. Um, the third question that we're answering is, what was my biggest challenge during the process and why? And what could I do personally to eliminate the challenge next time? I think the biggest challenge for me um, would have was creating a plan for math classes when not everyone in our group taught math. I was the one who sought out the group members for our group, and I picked them mainly on what I perceived their competence level to be and their intelligence and the fact that I assumed that they were going to check in frequently on the project and keep up to date with everything. I wasn't really quite as concerned with what subjects they taught. Um, so Jeanette also teaches math, so it was good because we kind of knew right off the bat what we were going to do for our parts of the project. But like I said, since Ken teaches social studies, it was a little bit harder for him to know what types of things a math teacher would do in using technology to help their kids who aren't understanding and who aren't doing what we have as expectations as the teacher for the students. Um, so to me, I think the biggest challenge was just helping Ken understand what types of things we would do. He asked a lot of questions to us over email, and I would just wrote back and told him, hey, these are some things that I do in my class. These are some iPad apps that I would use if I noticed the kids were struggling in a certain area. Um, so part of me was like, come on, man, you could totally figure this stuff out on your own. You could look up these iPad apps and figure it out. But then, I was like, I'm not going to say that to him because I know that if I had been in his shoes, if I had been in a group where everyone did a social studies project and they expected me to just know the types of things that they would do, I realized, I would not, I'd struggle with it also. So I totally understood where he was coming from, and I tried to be gracious in all my responses to him along those lines. Um, the fourth question that need to answer is, how did the Phase 2 team process and assignment add to my understanding of data-driven decision-making in the schools? And for me, I think the biggest takeaway from the project was just that any plan that I do has a much greater chance of actually succeeding in school if there's multiple teachers who are implementing it at the same time. Um, if I just try some initiative on my own in my own classroom, the kids might buy in or they might not. But if there's a bunch of teachers that have a very similar initiative or the exact same initiative, they're going to see, oh, I have this in first period. Oh, now I have it again in second period. And they're seeing it constantly throughout the day, and they're much more likely to buy in on it. Um, we're actually doing something like that at my school right now with the freshmen. There's a large percentage of freshmen who are in danger of failing ninth grade, and we have a team coordinator for the ninth grade who's started a credit recovery program either before or after school for the kids that are in danger of failing. Um, and it seems like it's going to be really helpful for those kids because they're going to be able to kind of make up for the fact that they screwed up at the beginning of the year. Um, the other thing that I think I could take away from this is because I'm a math person, like when I looked at the sample gradebook, I just naturally saw patterns. They just, it was just obvious to me. But I know that not everyone's like that. And so I think it's really helpful to, even like if I was going to go talk to other people at my school, I can look at data and immediately see a pattern, but I know they can't see those patterns. So one of the things I'm going to take away from this is that it's still really helpful if you make tables and graphs for all the people that don't easily recognize those patterns, just because it makes it so much more visual and it's really easy to see a stark contrast between the kids who are getting it and the kids who aren't getting it when you have those tables and graphs. The last question is, what suggestions do you have to the team and or instructor so that phases 1, 2, and 3 can be better planned for next semester's 615 class? I thought the timeline worked really well for completing all the phases of the project. It's definitely enough time to get together as a group and formulate your ideas and make your timeline for yourself for when you're going to complete each step of the project. But at the same time, it didn't feel like it was so spread out that I was like, okay, I've got 3 weeks to do this or 4 weeks to do this, so I could just put it off to the last week. It's definitely short enough so that it forces you to keep up the pace with everything, but at the same time, it's not so short that you don't actually have enough time to finish. Um, One thing, like I said before, I think that I would find really helpful is if the students in future classes could see a sample project. Um, I guess, my group came up with a really good product at the end, but like I said before, I was kind of lost a little bit at the beginning. Um, but that might have just been me. I don't know if other people actually felt that way. Um, One other thing that was kind of, I guess, weird to our group is that the summary for phase 2 was 20% of the total grade, but at the same time, we were limited to 100 words for our summary. So after our group had written our whole phase 2 project and we had like a 19-page document, that's 80% of our grade, and then I have to write a short little paragraph, and that's 20% of my grade. Um, and I didn't really think about it too much. I just wrote mine and then submitted it, and then Jeanette pointed out, hey guys, do you realize this is 20% of our grade? Like, we better make sure we take it seriously and write good summaries. Um, but she had found a sample summary from, I believe, I guess, some sample work that you had given us, Dr. Kalsa. So I looked at that when I wrote my summary, and I said, okay, if this is the expectation, I just say similar stuff, and I should be fine. So I did that, and it worked out. So I think that was good, and I really appreciated having the sample summary in that aspect. But like I said before, I think it would be really helpful for people who may not have a solid idea of what the expectation is they have an entire sample project just to look at. Um, so those are my answers for the questions, and I'm now done with phase 3. Okay, bye.